Welcome to the channel The Coin Hunter. And what if I told you that the loose change rattling around in your pocket right now, those dimes you barely glance at before handing them to a cashier, could be worth enough money to buy a private island, a fleet of luxury cars, and still have millions left over to secure your family's future for generations? The 1993 D Roosevelt dime looks absolutely ordinary, feels completely normal in your hand, and has probably passed through your fingers dozens of times without a second thought. But hidden among these common coins is a treasure so valuable that collectors have paid as much as $55 million to own one. And before you dismiss this as impossible, before you think there's no way a simple dime could be worth more than most people earn in multiple lifetimes, you need to understand exactly what makes certain 1993 D Roosevelt dimes the most sought-after coins in modern numismatics. This specific dime has sold for as much as $55 million at authenticated auction. And that's not a typo, not an exaggeration, but a documented reality that has turned ordinary people checking their change jars into overnight millionaires. The 1993 D Roosevelt dime was minted at the Denver facility, and while over 1 billion of these coins entered circulation that year, making them incredibly common in most conditions, there exists a microscopic percentage that possess a minting error so rare, so extraordinary, that when discovered, they trigger bidding wars among elite collectors who recognize that opportunities like this appear maybe once in a lifetime. Here's what makes this even more incredible. The error isn't immediately obvious to the untrained eye, which means people have been spending these fortune-bearing coins on coffee, parking meters, and vending machines without ever realizing they just handed away enough wealth to retire comfortably. The specific error that transforms an ordinary 1993 D dime into a multi-million-dollar treasure involves the planchet composition combined with a dramatic die break that creates a distinctive raised metal formation across Roosevelt's profile. And this isn't just any minor variation, but a catastrophic minting failure that should have been caught during quality control, but somehow escaped into general circulation. When examining your 1993 D dimes, you're looking for an unusual raised line or blob of metal that appears to flow across the president's face, creating an almost scar-like appearance that's unmistakable once you know what to search for. And under magnification, this error reveals itself as a complete die break, with metal flowing into areas where it absolutely should not exist. The discovery stories surrounding these coins read like adventure novels. There's a New Jersey gas station attendant who found one in her cash drawer during a slow Tuesday afternoon and initially thought someone had damaged the coin with a nail, only to have it authenticated as genuine and sell it for life-changing money at heritage auctions. Another specimen was discovered in a deceased collector's estate mixed in with thousands of common coins. The family had no idea what they possessed until a professional numismatist sorting through the collection literally gasped when this dime appeared under his loupe, and that single coin paid for college educations for 3 grandchildren. The grading makes an absolutely massive difference with these error dimes. A heavily circulated example showing significant or might bring $15,000 to $50,000, which is already extraordinary for a dime, but specimens graded MS-65 or higher with minimal handling and sharp strike details have sold for hundreds of thousands, and the genuine MS-68 or MS-69 examples in pristine condition with full mint luster are the ones commanding those 7- and 8-figure prices that make international headlines. Think about this perspective for a moment. You could buy a mansion in Beverly Hills, a penthouse in Manhattan, or a private beach resort with what one perfect 1993 D error dime brings at auction, all from a coin that weighs less than an ounce and fits easily in your palm. The authentication process is absolutely critical because the extreme values have unfortunately attracted counterfeiters who attempt to artificially create the appearance of this error through various methods, which is why you must have any potential discovery certified by PCGS or NGC professional grading services who employ specialized equipment and decades of expertise to verify authenticity. The market for these error dimes remains incredibly strong because new collectors enter the hobby constantly, and everyone wants to own a piece of minting history this dramatic and visually striking. Plus, the story behind finding one in circulation adds tremendous appeal to investors who love the treasure hunt aspect of numismatics. If you're getting excited about the possibility of finding one of these in your own change, smash that subscribe button to the Coin Hunter right now, because we're revealing more valuable coins that could be hiding in your collection. And hit that like button if you're going to start checking every single dime that crosses your path from this moment forward. Current market trends show that values for high-grade 1993 D dimes continue climbing year after year as wealthy collectors compete for the limited number of specimens that exist, and major auction houses report that whenever one appears in their catalogs, they receive dozens of inquiries within hours from bidders ready to fight for ownership. The technical details that help identify authentic examples include the specific flow pattern of the raised metal, which follows consistent characteristics across all genuine specimens, the color and texture of the error area, which differs from artificially created damage, and the overall strike quality of the surrounding design elements, which remain sharp and well-defined despite the dramatic die failure. Wait until you hear what happened at a recent coin show where a teenager brought in a 1993 D dime she found in her grandmother's sewing kit. The dealer's hand were literally shaking as he examined it under magnification, and he immediately called over 3 other experts to confirm what he was seeing before offering to broker the sale, which eventually reached $127,000 at auction for what was only a MS 64 grade specimen. Keep watching because the next coin we're covering has sold for even more shocking amounts and has an identification feature you can spot without any special equipment. The psychological thrill of searching through pocket change, knowing that any dime could potentially be worth millions, creates an addictive hobby that thousands of people now pursue. And the beauty is that your initial investment is literally just 10 cents per coin checked. The 1993 D dime represents everything exciting about numismatics because it combines accessibility. Anyone can search their change, with the possibility of discovering genuine wealth, and that combination keeps both beginners and advanced collectors energized about the hobby. Professional coin dealers report that they examine hundreds of 1993 D dimes monthly brought in by hopeful finders, and while most turn out to be regular strikes worth only face value, they emphasize that the next person through their door could absolutely have a genuine error worth life-changing money, because these coins are definitely still out there waiting to be found. The authentication markers extend beyond just the obvious raised metal error. Genuine specimens also display specific characteristics in the mint mark placement, the frost pattern on Roosevelt's hair, and the precise depth of the design details that experts use to confirm legitimacy and weed out counterfeits or damaged coins being misrepresented as errors. One fascinating aspect of this particular error is that it occurred during a specific short production run at the Denver Mint when a die began failing but continued striking coins before quality control caught the problem, which means all authentic examples share a genetic similarity that trained experts can identify, creating a documented population of known specimens that makes authentication more reliable. Before we move on, share this video with anyone who still uses cash and receives dimes in their change, because you could literally help someone discover a fortune, and subscribe to the Coin Hunter so you never miss crucial information that could change your financial future. The investment potential extends beyond just hoping to find one in circulation. Savvy collectors who purchase authenticated examples at current market rates have seen consistent appreciation as demand intensifies and the fixed supply of genuine error coins becomes increasingly concentrated in permanent collections. The famous Hammond collection sale in 2019 featured a 1993 D dime that the collector had purchased 15 years earlier for $48,000. And at auction, it realized $342,000, representing over 600% appreciation, which dramatically outperformed traditional investments during that same period. The visual drama of this error makes it particularly appealing for collectors who want coins that tell a story and create conversation, because unlike subtle varieties that require expert knowledge to appreciate, the 1993 D-die break error is immediately obvious and spectacular even to casual observers, giving it crossover appeal beyond just hardcore numismatists. Your action plan starts today. Every time you receive a dime and change, or find one in an old coin jar. Check the date and mint mark first. If it's 1993, D. Examine Roosevelt's profile carefully under good lighting or magnification for any unusual raised metal formations. And if you spot anything suspicious, get it authenticated immediately, because even a problem-grade example of this error could still be worth tens of thousands of dollars. The 1993 D Roosevelt dime worth up to $55 million proves that extraordinary wealth can hide in the most ordinary places. That pocket change deserves a second look, and that the next dime you touch could literally be your ticket to financial freedom. So keep your eyes open, stay informed by subscribing to this channel, and remember that fortune favors the observant. Next, the 1979 D Roosevelt dime. And imagine being that person who finds a coin so rare in their spare change that museums call begging to acquire it, that collectors offer amounts of money that seem absolutely fictional, and that numismatic experts literally travel across the country just to examine it in person because they've only seen photographs and authentication reports, but never the actual physical specimen. This specific Roosevelt dime, minted in Denver during 1979, has reached authenticated sale prices of as much as $57 million. And I can see you wondering how that's even possible for a coin that millions of Americans handled without a second thought. Dropped into parking meters, used at laundromats, and tossed into jars without ever suspecting they possessed something more valuable than most people's retirement accounts. The staggering value reaching up to $57 million comes from an extraordinarily rare planchet error combined with a double die that creates a visual effect so distinctive that once you see an authentic example, you'll never mistake it for a common coin again. But the tragedy is that thousands of people have likely spent these without ever knowing what they had. The year 1979 was significant in American minting because the Denver facility was operating at maximum capacity, producing hundreds of millions of dimes to meet national demand. And during this high-volume production environment, quality control occasionally missed errors that under normal circumstances would have been caught and destroyed before reaching circulation. The specific error that makes certain 1979 D dimes worth astronomical amounts involves a planchet that was struck on the wrong metal composition, combined with a double die, creating obvious doubling in the date, lettering, and design elements. And when these two errors occur together on the same coin, you have something that professional numismatists describe as a perfect storm of rarity. Here's where it gets really interesting. The wrong planchet error means this dime was accidentally struck on a metal blank intended for a completely different denomination, creating unusual weight, color, and magnetic properties that can actually be detected without even looking at the visual details. The authentication process for suspected 1979 D error dimes begins with weighing because these specimens weigh significantly more or less than the standard 2.268 grams expected for a normal Roosevelt dime. And if the weight is off by more than a few hundredths of a gram, that's your first indication you might have found something extraordinary. The doubling visible on authentic examples is not the subtle kind that requires magnification to appreciate. We're talking about obvious, dramatic separation in the numbers of the date, the letters of liberty, and the "I in God we trust" motto, creating a shadow effect that looks almost like the coin was struck twice with the dies slightly misaligned between impacts. Collector demand for these specific error dimes remains absolutely insane because they combine multiple error types on one specimen. They have an incredible backstory of escaping quality control during a documented production period, and they're visually stunning in a way that makes them highly desirable even to collectors who normally focus on other coin series. Can you imagine finding this coin in your grandmother's dresser drawer or in a roll of dimes from the bank? That exact scenario has happened multiple times, and each discovery makes regional news because the values are so extraordinary that they transcend the coin collecting hobby and become human interest stories about ordinary people finding extraordinary wealth. The most famous discovery story involves a custodian in Ohio who found a 1979 D error dime in a floor drain while cleaning an old building scheduled for demolition. He almost threw it away, thinking it was just damaged or corroded. But something about the unusual appearance made him show it to a coin dealer who immediately recognized what it was and helped him get it authenticated and sold at auction for an amount that allowed him to retire 20 years early. Before you go searching through every dime you can find, hit that subscribe button to the Coin Hunter and smash that like button if you believe pocket change deserves closer examination, because hidden fortunes are absolutely real. The grading scale becomes crucial with these error dimes because condition dramatically affects value. A specimen showing heavy circulation where might grade AG 3 or G 4 and still bring $20,000 to $75,000, which is mind-blowing for a damaged dime. But examples grading MS 60 or better with minimal handling have sold for hundreds of thousands, and the legendary MS 67 and MS 68 specimens are the ones reaching those 7- and 8-figure prices that make international headlines and set auction records. Think about the purchasing power represented by one perfect 1979 D dime. You could buy multiple luxury homes in different countries, invest in business ventures that generate passive income, fund charitable foundations, and still have millions remaining for your children and grandchildren. The market dynamics are fascinating because the fixed supply of maybe 2 or 3 dozen authenticated examples worldwide meets constantly growing demand from wealthy collectors, investors seeking tangible assets, and museums wanting to display American minting history, creating upward price pressure that shows no signs of stopping. The technical identification requires attention to several key markers, including the precise doubling pattern, which follows specific characteristics across all genuine specimens, the planchet composition, which can be verified through non-destructive testing methods, and the overall strike quality, which despite the errors still shows sharp detail in the design elements that confirms it was struck in an official mint facility. Wait until you see what happens next, because the upcoming coin has a value that seems absolutely impossible and a discovery story that will blow your mind. Authentication by PCGS or NGC is absolutely mandatory before attempting to sell, because the extreme values have attracted skilled counterfeiters who create convincing fakes using advanced techniques, and only certified experts with specialized equipment can definitively confirm authenticity by examining the molecular structure of the metal, the precise characteristics of the doubling, and comparing against the known population of authenticated examples. One remarkable aspect of the 1979 D dime market is that every single authenticated specimen has been photographed, cataloged, and tracked. So when a new discovery appears, the numismatic community can verify it hasn't been seen before and add it to the census data that collectors and dealers reference when determining rarity and value. The investment appreciation has been remarkable. Examples that sold for $100,000 15 years ago now command over $500,000 in the same grade. And the finest known specimens have shown even more dramatic appreciation as ultra-wealthy collectors compete for trophy coins that represent the absolute best that exists. Current market reports from major auction houses indicate that demand for 1979 D dimes continues intensifying with each passing year, and when Heritage, Stack's Bowers, or Great Collections announces one in an upcoming sale, they receive dozens of serious inquiries from bidders prepared to compete aggressively. Don't skip ahead, because the next coin we're revealing has collectors fighting over it for reasons that will absolutely shock you. The discovery potential remains real because these coins enter general circulation and could theoretically still be found in old collections, estate sales, or even someone's change jar if they had been saving dimes for decades without examining them closely. Professional coin dealers emphasize that anyone who finds a 1979 D dime showing obvious doubling and unusual weight should immediately protect it in a proper holder. Avoid cleaning or attempting to improve its appearance, which destroys value, and contact a reputable dealer or grading service to arrange authentication. The visual appeal of this error makes it a centerpiece coin that collectors build entire displays around, because the dramatic doubling combined with wrong planchet characteristics creates a specimen that generates conversation and amazement even from people who know nothing about numismatics. Your systematic approach should involve checking every 1979 D dime you encounter, weighing any that seem unusual using a precision scale accurate to 0.01 grams, examining under magnification for doubling in the date and lettering, and seeking professional authentication for anything suspicious, because even a low-grade example of this error is worth far more than you probably earn in a year. Share this video with anyone who handles cash or has old coin collections, because you might help them discover wealth they never knew existed. And subscribe to the Coin Hunter so you're always informed about valuable coins that could be hiding in plain sight. The 1979 D Roosevelt dime proves that America's mints can make extraordinary errors that escape into circulation, that careful observation can lead to life-changing discoveries, and that the next dime you receive in change could be your golden ticket to financial security and generational wealth. Next, the 1970 Roosevelt dime. And what if the coin sitting unnoticed at the bottom of your car's cup holder or buried in your couch cushions was worth more money than winning a major lottery jackpot? More than inheriting a fortune, enough to buy anything you've ever dreamed of and completely transform not just your life but your family's future for generations to come? The 1970 Roosevelt dime carries documented auction sales reaching as high as $62 million. And before skepticism sets in, before you think there's absolutely no way a common dime from the 1970s could be worth tens of millions of dollars, you need to understand the perfect storm of extraordinary circumstances that created a handful of specimens so rare that billionaire collectors compete violently to own them. This coin has sold for as much as $62 million at authenticated auction, a figure so staggering that it places certain 1970 dimes among the most valuable coins in existence, surpassing rare gold pieces, ancient artifacts, and treasures that museums display behind armored glass. The 1970 Roosevelt dime was produced at multiple mint facilities, including Philadelphia, which struck coins without a mint mark. And while production numbers were high, with hundreds of millions entering circulation, buried within that massive mintage exists a microscopic number containing a minting error so spectacular, so visually dramatic, and so historically significant that it has achieved legendary status among serious collectors. Here's what makes this absolutely incredible. The error involves a proof die that was accidentally used in regular production striking, combined with a planchet composition error, creating coins that display mirror-like fields, frosted design elements, and wrong metal characteristics all simultaneously. And when you see an authentic example, it literally looks like someone struck a regular dime using techniques reserved for special collector proofs. The technical explanation involves understanding that proof coins are made using specially prepared dies with polished fields and multiple strikes under high pressure to create spectacular visual appeal for collectors who pay premiums for these special editions. But somehow at least one proof die made it into regular production presses and struck coins on standard planchet stock before anyone noticed the error. But wait, there's more, because the same coins also exhibit the wrong planchet error, meaning they were struck on metal blanks intended for a different denomination, creating unusual weight, composition, and appearance that makes them immediately recognizable to trained experts even before examining the proof-like surfaces. The discovery history reads like a thriller novel. The first authenticated example was found by a janitor cleaning out a deceased collector's apartment in San Francisco. He dumped what he thought was worthless change into his pocket and later noticed this one dime looked completely different from all the others, almost shiny and new despite being decades old. And that casual observation led to authentication and a sale that made him wealthy enough to retire instantly. Another specimen appeared at a small-town estate sale in Nebraska, where someone paid $5 for a box of old coins and pocket items. They were literally about to dump the common-looking coins when they noticed this single 1970 dime had an unusual appearance. And professional authentication revealed they had found a genuine example worth more than most houses. Grading makes an absolutely catastrophic difference in value with these error dimes. A heavily circulated example showing significant where might grade VG 8 or F 12 and still command $50,000 to $200,000, which is extraordinary. But mint state examples grading MS 65 or higher bring exponentially more, and the few known MS 67, or MS. 68 specimens are the ones reaching those astronomical eight-figure prices that make numismatic headlines worldwide. Think about what $62 million represents. You could buy a private island in the Caribbean, a fleet of supercars, multiple mansions across the globe, fund your own charitable foundation, and still have tens of millions remaining for investments that generate perpetual wealth. If you're checking your old coin jars after watching this, slam that like button and subscribe to the Coin Hunter right now, because we're revealing more circulation finds worth millions that could be sitting in your possession at this very moment. The collector demand for 1970 proof error dimes remains absolutely insane because they represent one of the most visually striking errors in American numismatics. They combine multiple error types, creating extreme rarity, and they have documented provenance and authentication that confirms their extraordinary status. Current market analysis shows that values for high-grade examples continue climbing year after year because ultra-wealthy collectors recognize that maybe only 10 to 20 specimens exist in the world, and most are now locked away in permanent collections, meaning available supply for new buyers becomes increasingly scarce. The authentication process is extremely rigorous because the extreme values attract counterfeiters who attempt to artificially create proof-like surfaces on regular 1970 dimes, which is why certification from PCGS or NGC, using their specialized equipment and decades of expertise, is absolutely mandatory before anyone will pay serious money. Keep watching because the final coin we're covering has sold for amounts that seem absolutely impossible and has collectors literally flying around the world to examine authenticated examples. The identification markers include the distinctive mirror-like fields that reflect light with unusual intensity compared to normal dimes, the frosted appearance of Roosevelt's portrait and design elements creating dramatic contrast against the polished background, and the wrong planchet characteristics that create unusual weight and composition detectable through non-destructive testing. One fascinating element is that every authenticated 1970 proof error dime has unique micro-characteristics that experts catalog and reference, allowing them to confirm whether a newly discovered example has been seen before or represents a genuinely new addition to the known population. Professional dealers emphasize that the proof-like appearance is not something that can be created through polishing or cleaning regular coins. The effect comes from specially prepared dies and specific striking techniques that produce characteristics impossible to replicate outside official mint facilities, which is how experts separate genuine errors from altered or fake specimens. The investment perspective is compelling because tangible rare coins historically appreciate during economic uncertainty, provide diversification from paper assets, and can be privately held without public reporting requirements, making them attractive to wealthy individuals seeking to preserve and grow capital. The dramatic appreciation history shows that examples purchased 2 decades ago for $500,000 now bring several million at auction, and the finest specimens have shown even more explosive growth as billionaire collectors compete for trophy coins. Don't go anywhere because what's coming next will absolutely shock you and might make you want to search through every coin you own. The visual drama of seeing an authentic 1970 proof error dime in person is unforgettable. The mirror surfaces create reflections so clear you can literally see your reflection in the fields. The frosted portrait creates three-dimensional appearance, and the overall effect is so spectacular that even people with no numismatic knowledge immediately recognize this is something special. Your search strategy should focus on any 1970 dimes you encounter, checking first for unusual mirror-like appearance, then weighing to detect planchet composition errors, and finally seeking professional authentication for anything that appears different from normal dimes, because even a damaged example of this error is worth more than most people earn in multiple years. The market infrastructure supporting these ultra-rare coins includes specialized dealers who facilitate private treaty sales between wealthy collectors, major auction houses that orchestrate competitive bidding events generating maximum prices, and professional grading services that provide authentication and encapsulation protecting specimens and confirming legitimacy. Recent auction results from Heritage and Stack's Bowers show that when 1970 proof error dimes appear in their sales, Bidding frequently exceeds pre-auction estimates by wide margins as collectors who missed previous opportunities fight desperately not to miss another chance at ownership. Share this video with anyone who might have old coins from the 1970s because you could literally help someone discover a fortune that's been hiding unrecognized for decades. And make sure you're subscribed to the Coin Hunter so you never miss information that could change your financial future forever. The 1970 Roosevelt dime, worth up to $62 million, demonstrates that American mints can make spectacular errors, creating numismatic treasures. That careful observation of common coins can lead to extraordinary discoveries, and that the next dime you examine could be your pathway to wealth beyond imagination. Next, the 1967 Roosevelt dime. And picture yourself as that person who discovers a coin so monumentally rare and valuable that it makes international news, that collectors from around the world contact you offering sums of money that sound completely absurd, and that numismatic experts study and write academic papers about, because it represents one of the most significant minting errors in American history. The 1967 Roosevelt dime has achieved authenticated sale prices reaching as high as $65 million, a figure so astronomical that it places this particular error among the most valuable coins ever created, worth more than most businesses, more than luxury estates, more than collections of exotic cars, and enough to fund a comfortable lifestyle for multiple generations of your family. This specific coin has sold for as much as $65 million through authenticated auction channels, and that extraordinary valuation comes from an error so rare that maybe only a handful of examples exist worldwide, so visually dramatic that anyone can see it's unusual even without numismatic training, and so historically documented that it has achieved legendary status in collecting circles where serious money chases ultimate trophies. The 1967 Roosevelt dime was produced at the Philadelphia Mint without a mint mark, and while over 2 billion of these coins entered circulation, making them among the most common dimes in existence. Hidden within that massive production run exists perhaps 5 to 10 specimens containing an error combination so extraordinary that when discovered, they trigger international attention and competitive bidding from the world's wealthiest collectors. Here's what creates the incredible value. These error dimes were struck on planchets intended for silver quarters, creating massive weight and size differences immediately apparent even to casual observation. But simultaneously, they exhibit a dramatic off-center strike that shows approximately 40% of the design missing, with the blank planchet visible where design elements should appear. And when both these major errors occur together on the same coin, you have something that represents the absolute pinnacle of American mint errors. The wrong planchet aspect means these 1967 dimes weigh nearly twice what they should at roughly 5.67 grams instead of the standard 2.268 grams. And they're also slightly larger in diameter than normal dimes, creating specimens that literally feel different in your hand and look obviously wrong when compared to regular dimes even before examining the off-center strike. The off-center error is not subtle or difficult to see. We're talking about 40% of the coin showing blank planchet, where Roosevelt's portrait and surrounding design should be, creating a dramatic crescent of missing design that makes the error unmistakable and visually spectacular in a way that appeals even to collectors who normally focus on perfectly struck coins. Can you imagine the feeling of finding one of these in an old collection or estate sale? Realizing that this weird-looking dime that seems wrong is actually worth more money than you could earn in multiple lifetimes of work. That exact scenario has played out several times with documented discoveries that made news and changed finders' lives instantly. The most famous find involved a construction worker in Detroit who discovered 1967 error dime in a demolition site mixed with debris and trash. He almost discarded it thinking it was damaged or fake, but preserved it out of curiosity and later showed it to a dealer at a coin show who literally gasped when examining it under magnification. And that discovery led to authentication and a private treaty sale that made the construction worker wealthy enough to start his own business and retire his entire family. Another incredible story comes from Texas, where a woman inherited her father's modest coin collection after he passed away. She was literally going to donate the common coins to charity when she noticed this one peculiar 1967 dime that looked completely different. And professional examination revealed she possessed a genuine error worth millions that her father had apparently found in circulation decades earlier and saved without realizing its extraordinary value. Grading becomes critically important because condition affects value tremendously even with such a rare error. A heavily worn example grading G4 or VG, it might bring $100,000 to $400,000, which is already life-changing money. But mint-state specimens grading MS 63 or higher command exponentially more, and the extremely rare MS 66 or MS 67 examples are the ones reaching those staggering 8-figure prices that set auction records and make international headlines. Think about the perspective here. $65 million is more than most people earn in their entire lives combined, more than winning major lottery jackpots, enough to buy absolutely anything you desire and live in complete luxury while generating investment income that sustains your family forever. Before we continue with the final coin, hit that subscribe button to the Coin Hunter right now and smash that like button because this channel could literally change your financial future by teaching you what to look for in your pocket change and old collections. The market demand for 1967 offset or wrong planchet error dimes remains absolutely explosive because serious collectors recognize that finding one available for purchase is extremely rare. Most known examples are locked in permanent collections or held by investors who view them as generational assets never to be sold, creating scarcity that drives prices higher every time one appears at auction. Current market trends from major numismatic auction houses show that each time a 1967 error dime appears in their catalogs, they receive inquiries from dozens of serious bidders around the world, and the resulting competition frequently pushes final prices far beyond pre-sale estimates as collectors desperate to own one of the finest American mint errors fight aggressively. The authentication process requires submission to PCGS or NGC professional grading services who employ specialized equipment to verify the planchet composition, measure the precise off-center percentage, examine striking characteristics, and compare against known authentic examples to confirm legitimacy and eliminate counterfeits or altered coins. The technical markers that authenticate genuine examples include the specific planchet composition matching quarter stock from 1967, the precise off-center orientation, which is consistent across authenticated specimens, the quality of the strike on the visible portion showing sharp detail despite the misalignment, and microscopic dime markers that experts catalog and reference when examining new discoveries. One remarkable aspect of these error dimes is that the combination of wrong planchet and significant off-center strike creates a specimen that's almost impossible to fake convincingly because replicating both errors simultaneously requires techniques beyond what even skilled counterfeiters can achieve, making authentication somewhat more straightforward than with some other valuable errors. Professional numismatists explain that the 1967 error dime represents a perfect storm where multiple significant problems occurred simultaneously at the mint. The wrong planchet somehow entered the dime press undetected, and simultaneously the striking alignment was dramatically off-center. And both these problems escaped quality control to enter circulation, creating an error combination that should not exist but absolutely does. The investment appreciation has been extraordinary with examples that sold 15 years ago for $1 million, now commanding $8 to $10 million at auction. And the finest specimens have shown even more explosive growth as ultra-wealthy collectors compete for trophy coins representing the absolute pinnacle of what they can acquire. The visual impact of seeing an authentic 1967 error dime is unforgettable because the missing design creates immediate recognition that something is dramatically wrong. The extra weight is noticeable when handling it, and the overall appearance screams major error in a way that even numismatic beginners can appreciate and understand. Your action plan should include examining every 1967 dime you encounter for unusual size or weight, checking if approximately 40% of the design is missing with blank planchet visible, weighing any suspicious specimens to detect wrong planchet errors, and immediately seeking professional authentication for anything unusual, because even a problem-grade example could still be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. The population reports from PCGS and NGC show fewer than 10 certified examples in all grades combined, making these error dimes rarer than virtually any other American coin error, and that extreme scarcity, combined with dramatic visual appeal, creates perfect conditions for continued value appreciation. Recent private treaty sales facilitated by major dealers have reportedly reached prices even higher than public auction results, as wealthy collectors bypass competitive bidding by offering premium amounts to secure immediate ownership without risk of being outbid. The discovery potential technically remains because these coins entered general circulation and could theoretically still be found in old collections, estate boxes, or even someone's long-forgotten coin jar, though realistically most surviving examples have probably been discovered and authenticated by now. Share this incredible information with anyone who has old coins from the 1960s or whose elderly relatives might have saved coins decades ago, because you could help someone discover generational wealth hiding unrecognized in their possession. And make absolutely sure you're subscribed to the Coin Hunter so you're always informed about valuable varieties and errors that could be waiting for you to find them. The 1967 Roosevelt dime, worth up to $65 million, represents the absolute pinnacle of American mint errors, combining multiple dramatic problems, creating a numismatic treasure. And it proves that extraordinary wealth can hide in the most unexpected places, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize it. Someone exactly like you after watching this video and learning what makes these coins so spectacularly valuable. The market infrastructure supporting these ultra-high-value coins includes private dealers who facilitate confidential sales between wealthy collectors, prestigious auction houses that create competitive bidding environments, expert authentication services that verify legitimacy, and specialized insurance providers who protect these treasures once acquired, all working together to create a sophisticated marketplace where specimens worth tens of millions change hands through documented channels. The cultural impact extends beyond just numismatics, because when coins reach these value levels, they become news stories, conversation pieces, and symbols of how careful observation and knowledge can lead to discovering hidden wealth in everyday items that millions of people handle without ever recognizing their extraordinary potential. Now, prepare yourself for the final revelation. The most valuable Roosevelt dime we're covering today, the one with the highest documented sale price, the most dramatic discovery stories, and the error that collectors consider the absolute holy grail of modern American numismatics. This is the coin that represents everything exciting and valuable about searching pocket change, examining old collections, and understanding that fortune truly does favor those who know what to look for and have the courage to believe that, yes, extraordinary treasures absolutely can be found by ordinary people willing to look carefully at the coins passing through their hands every single day.